Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the council meeting being held in the council chambers for this Monday, the 24th of April. We'll begin with the opening affirmation and acknowledgement of country. We gather to represent the people of Albury who have entrusted us with this task. May our efforts be blessed with insight, wisdom and common sense. May our personal values give us honesty and courage to serve our community effectively and with respect for all. We would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people as the traditional custodians of the land that we meet upon today and pay our respects to the elders past, present and future, for they hold the memories, culture, tradition and hopes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that contribute to our community. Item 2, recording and webcasting of the meeting. This council meeting is being webcast and recorded. By speaking at the council meeting, you agree to being recorded and webcast. Please ensure that if and when you are speaking at this council meeting that you are respectful to other people and use appropriate language. AlburyCity accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this council meeting. An audio recording will be made for administrative purposes. Item 2, conflict of interest declarations received and disclosure of political donations. Mr. CEO, Mr. Zachnich.
Thank you, Mayor King. We've received 3 conflict of interest declarations. The first one is from Councillor Darryl Bettridge. It's a non-pecuniary significant interest. And a brief description is that Councillor Bettridge has a long-term association with Parklands Albury-Wodonga, including acting in the role of chairman. The item the declaration relates to is CM 13.1, draft 2023-24 financial assistance budget. And the action that Councillor Bettridge will take is leave the chamber and take no part in the proceedings or discussion in relation to the Parklands Albury-Wodonga matter. The second item relates to from Councillor Steve Bowen, a pecuniary interest. The description is in relation to the conflict of interest, a contract entertainment work for Boys to the Bush, who made a submission for the 2023-24 financial assistance budget, relates to item 13.1, and Councillor Bowen will leave the chamber when this item is discussed. And finally, from Councillor Ashley Edwards, a non-pecuniary less than significant conflict of interest declaration. A description of the conflict is that a close family member is an ordinary member of the Hockey Albury-Wodonga Club. The item relates to 13.2 draft 23-24 community fund budget. Councillor Edwards will remain in the chamber and participate during that matter. In relation to disclosure of political donations, Mayor King, there are no development applications under the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act to consider this evening. So that ends the advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to CM4 apologies. Pardon me. There are no apologies for tonight. CM 4.2, attendance by councillors at a meeting by audio-visual link. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that council receive, note and accept the attendance of Councillor Blacken via audio-visual link for the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Councillor Cameron.
To second that motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillors, we'll put that motion. Those for, those against, that motion is carried. Thank you. CM5, mayoral minute. I do have a mayoral minute. Following the declaration of the polls, I would like to congratulate Justin Clancy MP on his re-election as member for Albury and Dr. Amanda Conn on being elected as a member of the Legislative Council at the recent New South Wales election. AlburyCity looks forward to working with both Justin and Amanda for the best outcome for Albury and surrounding areas. Do I need to move the mayoral minute? It's been a while. I'd like to, so I've moved the mayoral minute. Those for, those against, that motion is carried. Thank you. Item CM6, action plans. Councillor Thurley.
Mayor King, I move the following action plans be received and noted. 1, actions complete for noting only. 2, actions awaiting response from external parties. 3, actions in progress. And 4, long-term issues more than 3 months.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you. I'd like to second that motion.
Councillor Thurley, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor King.
Councillors, any speakers for or against or questions? In that case, happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM7, confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. CM 7.1, minutes of the council meeting held on the 11th of April 2023 at 6:44 p.m. Councillor Betteridge.
Through you, Mayor King, I'd like to move that the minutes of the council meeting held on Tuesday, the 11th of April 2023 at 6:44 p.m. be confirmed.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Happy to put the motion.
Same, thank you.
Councillors, if there's no speakers for or against, we'll put that motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM8, reports from community forums. There are none. CM9, notices of motion, notices of rescission. There are none. CM10, presentations and deputations. There are none. CM11, reports or minutes of committees and working parties. CM 11.1, minutes of the Floodplain Risk Management Committee meeting held on Thursday, the 30th of March, 2023. Councillor Edwards.
I move that council receives, notes and accepts the minutes recommendation of the Floodplain Risk Management Committee meeting held on Thursday, 30th of March, 2023.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen.
I'd like to second that motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just briefly to say that the committee is now seeking additional community representatives, and I encourage any interested community members, particularly those from areas at risk of flooding, to submit an expression of interest.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Any speakers for or against? Councillor Cameron's light's on, but that might be an accidental, I think. Any speakers for or against? Councillor Edwards, happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. CM 11.2, minutes of the Albury Crime Prevention Committee meeting held on Monday, the 27th of February, 2023. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that council receives, notes and accepts the minutes and recommendations of the Albury Crime Prevention Committee meeting held on Monday, 27th of February, 2023.
Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King, and happy to second that motion.
Councillor Thurley, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor King. After reading the minutes of this committee, I was alerted to a matter that has concerned me for some time, and I've mentioned in this room before, the matter of violence in our community, and in particular domestic violence or intimate partner abuse. And without giving actual numbers, my sense is there is at least one incident every day reported in our local paper. But recently I've seen some news reports and done a bit of research, and it seems that it's worse than we even know. Albury apparently ranks 26th out of 128 LGAs in New South Wales for the prevalence of such a domestic violence. And in fact, in 2022, there were 403 incidents in the Albury LGA. And that doesn't take into account matters not reported to police. This violence consumes a huge amount of police time, as was mentioned in the minutes of that meeting. So what's happened and what needs to happen? And I note that the new Premier of New South Wales has pledged that a domestic violence counsellor will be placed in every courthouse in New South Wales. A good start, but nowhere near enough. I believe there are a few places in diversionary programs currently operating in Albury and elsewhere in New South Wales. And the last thing we want is the only option to be a jail sentence. The cost of keeping an adult in jail in New South Wales is more than $150,000 per annum. And for a juvenile, this figure is dramatically higher. New South Wales government revealed in budget estimates that it costs over $700,000 to hold a prisoner child in youth detention. So not only could we save money, we would provide better opportunities for rehabilitation and lessen the chances of reoffending. We need to act before such violence occurs, because prevention means there are no victims. We need properly funded diversion programs for men and boys. We're doing our part with the ALBURY project, and groups such as Boys to the Bush do an amazing job across a large part of southern New South Wales and northeast Victoria. But we, other councils and volunteer groups cannot do all the job. Government, state and federal need to step up and increase funding in this area. In the medium to long term, they'll reap a dividend with savings in prison costs and fewer victims who suffer long-term trauma, which adds another cost. I would briefly also mention the matter of AVOs, which also consume a considerable amount of police time. And I would indicate that, to me, they are poorly policed, not because of the police themselves, but because of legislation in New South Wales. If I owned a Tesla car, they can tell every minute of the day where I am with that car, and they can see all sorts of things. But you've got an AVO against you, unless you're categorised as high risk, no one knows where you are. So I think we need to do better on all of those matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Any other speakers for or against in relation to that matter? In that case, we'll put the motion. Councillors, those for, those against, that motion is carried. CM12, documents for sealing, there are none. CM13, officers' reports for consideration. Now, this does relate to item 13.1, the draft 2023-24 financial assistance budget. Councillor Bowen has indicated that he will leave the chamber while this matter is being heard. So we'll just wait for him to leave. Confirming that Councillor Bowen has left the chamber. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor King. Happy to move that the council, with exception of the following item, be dealt with individually. We have Parklands Albury-Wodonga 35,000, and A, adopts the 2023-24 draft AlburyCity financial assistance schedule, including the following allocations in response to the request received for the 2023-2024 financial year. One being the Orana Community Centre for $12,750, and two being Thaguna Community Centre for $33,000 per annum. And item three is Orana Community Centre, $5,000 per annum. And for West Side Community Centre, $7,681 per annum. And B, places the draft financial assistance schedule on public exhibition as part of the council's draft 2023-24 operational plan.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Cameron.
I'd like to second that motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan, did you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I will briefly. I suppose I'd first like to start by acknowledging all the applicants and the wonderful work that they do day in and day out, really connecting our community and helping it to thrive. Unfortunately, we can't financially support every group and agency. However, AlburyCity will advocate where possible to state and federal government for their support. And David Thurley just touched on Two Boys to the Bush and the important role that they play. And I think it is our responsibility to advocate for them. Although we can't fund the $600,000 they were hoping to receive, we have a place to play in that space. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Another speaker for Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor King. Councillors, it seems pretty fundamental, but I'll point it out anyway, that people pay their rates essentially for the services that council provides that other tiers of government don't provide. That's our first priority, and that should be our first priority, and that is our central reason for existing as a council. Generally speaking, they fall into the categories of rubbish, roads, and other forms of infrastructure. Albury does have a history, and I'd like to pay tribute to Councillor and former Mayor Patricia Gould of being involved in things in addition to those core features. In the 70s and 80s, there was very little, if any, childcare. And under the stewardship and under the strong advocacy of Councillor Gould and Mayor Gould, Albury City started to provide quite extensive childcare and related services that were necessary for the women of Albury in order to enable them to pursue careers with work. We're gradually moving out of that space and have moved out of that space in recent times, which is appropriate given the plethora of other privately provided services in that area. But currently we need to be cognizant of the fact that we are in deficit, even if that deficit is largely a paper figure caused by depreciation costs or the need to account for depreciation. And we need to understand too that cost of living pressures are very, very, very difficult for the majority of people in our city at the moment. And to be contemplating putting rates up to any degree more than is necessary would be something I think most of us, or certainly I, will advocate very strongly against. It would be wonderful if we had unlimited budget to fund very worthy causes like Boys to the Bush. But the moral dilemma and the moral hazard we move into when we do that is, well, what about the next cause that comes along that is equally worthy and equally good and important and underfunded and needs help? We can't do everything. And is it fair that we pick one or two and ignore the rest? I think the best way to proceed is always to focus on our core areas, our core responsibilities, which are rubbish, roads, and the other services that the other tiers of government don't provide. And we should always be willing to point out to the other two tiers of government, even with their much improved political complexion, I should say, not complexity, that they have responsibilities and they need to fulfill those responsibilities and not cost shift onto the ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Callaghan, do you wish to sum up debate or happy to put the motion?
Put the motion, please, Mary.
Councillors, we'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. We now will deal with the Parklands Albury Wodonga. So we will just wait for Councillor Bettridge to leave the room before we vote on that. Councillor Cameron.
Got one. Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to move that the following allocation be adopted for the draft 2023 Albury City Financial Assistance Schedule. Roman numeral 5, Parklands, Albury Wodonga, $35,000.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion, Mayor King.
Councillor Cameron, did you wish to speak to it at all?
No, thank you, Mayor King.
Any speakers for or against? In that case, happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll just wait for Councillor Bettridge to return to the chamber. We're up to item CM 13.2, the draft 2023-24 Albury City Community Fund budget. We have a councillor wish to move a motion. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that Council A adopts the following 2023-24 draft Albury City Community Fund budget allocations. 1, Flying Fruit Fly Foundation, $50,000. 2, Splitters Creek Community Incorporated, $12,006. 3, Westside Community Centre, $113,966. 4, West Albury Preschool, $324,029, including $162,014 interest-free loan over 10 years. B, adopts the following 2024-25 draft Albury City Community Fund budget allocation. 1, Westside Community Centre, $487,722 pledge. C, endorses the following updates to existing 2023-24 Albury City Community Fund budget allocations. 1, Ross Circuit Preschool, $415,000. 2, West Albury Preschool, $350,000, and Albury Preschool, $250,000. D, endorses the following updates to existing 2024-25 Albury City Community Fund budget allocations. 1, Ross Circuit Preschool, $285,000 and $200,000 interest-free loan over 10 years. 2, West Albury Preschool, $267,000 and Albury Preschool, $200,000 interest-free loan over 10 years. C, places the draft Albury City Community Fund budget on public exhibition as part of Council's 2023-24 draft operational plan and 4-year delivery program.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Councillor Callaghan.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley, did you wish to speak?
Very briefly, and really to echo the previous two speakers, we really have some wonderful organisations in this community and many of them need help. And this budget here picks out some of the best services we have in this city. And I am really pleased to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Speaker 4, Councillor Callaghan.
Yes, thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to highlight the investment that we're making in our community, especially in preschool. It's so important for our young people to start their educational journey in a positive way. And I think the centres that we're supporting, being Ross Circuit, West Albury and Albury Preschool, do an amazing job. And I think the money will go a long way in providing additional places. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Thurley, did you wish to sum up? In that case, we'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. CM 13.3, Albury City Draft 4-Year Delivery Program, the Draft 2023-24 Operational Plan, and the Draft Long-Term Financial Plan. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd move that Council A adopt the draft 4-year delivery plan 2023 to 2027, the draft 2023-24 operational plan, and the draft long-term financial plan. B, places the draft plans on public exhibition for 28 days, concluding on Friday, the 26th of May, 2023, and C, considers any submissions received at a meeting of council to be held on Monday, the 26th of June, 2023, prior to the final adoption of the plans.
Councillor Edwards.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron, did you wish to open debate?
Only very briefly, Mayor King. As I alluded to before, we are in deficit, which is not the normal state with Albury City Council, I'm proud to say. It is something that is partly a function of COVID and falling incomes from the airport. And largely, as I spoke about earlier, the requirement for us in the accounting system to cover or to reflect depreciation, which can be very extensive. I note there are considerations underway to potentially change the way we account for that. And one would hope, but with some other measures and with increased return to normality post-COVID, if we are in that such a phase, that the revenue from the airport increases to hopefully exponentially. And let us hope that we quickly return to a surplus budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Cameron, are you happy to put the motion? Councillors, those for? Those against? The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. CM 13.4, the draft multicultural plan, public exhibition submissions. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that Council A receives and notes the submissions received during the public exhibition of the Multicultural Plan 2023-28 and B, adopts the Multicultural Plan 2023-28 with changes proposed.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I will briefly. Basically, I think the submissions show that we do have a multicultural community. And I've been aware of that on many occasions with Syrian refugees, with Congolese people helping out, and obviously with our very large Nepali-speaking Bhutanese community. They all seem to get on pretty well, but there are clear submissions that we need to take note of certain matters and help out. And I think the changes proposed in the plan are excellent and a great result.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Councillor Callaghan, a question.
I do have a question, Mayor King, to the most relevant staff member, Simona. In regards to the inland drowning prevention strategy with the Cold community, my question is, how many participants did we have in the uptake for this strategy?
Ms.
For this
Code?
free swim lesson, sorry.
Ms. Code?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Callaghan, and through you, Mayor King. So were you referring to how many participants we had in the swimming lessons?
Over the recent break, it was Katina Heap suggested in her Have a Say that the focus on free swimming lessons for adult migrants. So I'm curious to know how many people participated in our recent uptake.
I will have to take that on notice and keep you updated and send that around to you.
Thank you.
But yeah,
I thought it was 30 or so. It might have been more in the end. But was there a particular focus on youth at that point, or was it just open to all?
the swimming lessons were open to all in the relevant area, but I'll provide all the details and send that through.
Lovely. Thank you, Simona.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Thurley, do you wish to sum up? Happy to put the motion then. Councillors, those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you. Item CM 13.5, Acting CEO Appointment, CEO Leave, Frank Zachnich. Councillor Betteridge.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor King, I'd like to move that Council appoint the following employees to the position of Acting CEO during the CEO absence on leave. Tracy Squire, Deputy CEO, 7th of June to 28th of July 2023. Brad Ferris, Deputy CEO, 29th of July to 13th of August 2023.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion.
Councillor Betteridge, do you wish to speak to it all or just procedural? Any other speakers for or against in that case? We'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM 14, Officers' Reports for Noting. CM 14.1, Investment Balances, March 2023. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that Council receives and notes the investment balances report for the month of March 2023.
Thank you. Councillor Betteridge.
You, through you, Mayor King, happy to second.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I do. Just to note that the percentage of investments held with financial institutions that do not invest in the fossil fuel industry now equates to 40% of the investment portfolio. This is up from 10% in March last year and demonstrates the great success of Council's sustainable investment policy.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Any other speakers for or against? In that case, if you're happy, we'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM 14.2, Bank Closures in Regional Australia. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to move that Council receive and notes AlburyCity's submission to the Rural and Regional Affairs and Transport Reference Committee inquiry into bank closures in regional Australia.
Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I thank you, Mayor King.
Any speakers for or against? In that case, if you're happy, we'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. CM 15, Delegates' Reports for Noting. There are none. CM 16, Notice of Urgent Business. Councillors. None received. CM 17, Confidential Matters. There are none. I declare the meeting closed at 6:29 p.m. Thank you, councillors.